Firefighting is not easy in Rhode Island, and it gets more and more complicated by the day. We actually know it's very expensive, and this old-fashioned thing that we got with fire districts in local communities really complicates the matter. And in Coventry, it's been complicated for quite some time. We'll talk to the chairman of the Central Coventry Fire District tonight, Fred Gralinski. He's not happy about what's gone on with the court-ordered takeover, the bankruptcy proceedings, leaving, he says, I'm sure, the citizens of that district wanting. But it's a bigger picture conversation because we have A, too many of these fire districts in too many towns, and B, we have a lot of expense when it comes to fire. That's not picking on firefighters, that's just true. In fact, tomorrow Ken Block will be here to talk about his Watchdog RI efforts on firefighting and some of the things that he has found. So kind of a theme running through a couple of programs back to back. It is an honor to have you aboard. Thank you very much for watching Dan York's State of Mind. We're here weeknights at 7:30, and if you miss the show at 7:30, you'll watch the show at 11:30. If you miss it at 7:30 and 11:30, you see it on foxprovidence.com. We post each show around 8 o'clock each night, and on Facebook too. I mean, we're all over the place. All right, let's go to the rundown and see what's happening. No protests. You know, that's kind of a theme that I wrote, and then we found a headline to match it. This is an awful story about a police officer who has lost his life in New York City. You know, if everyone's got a consultant, you got to have your own, especially if you're going in a different direction. This is the Paw Sox latest development. The process begins, yes, well, the process begins, you know, sometimes I forget what my own notes are about, but that's about the Tiverton Casino project. It's an open slate for the people in Tiverton until, next item, yes, the ad campaign is up. This is being the heat's in the kitchen. We had a debate on marijuana legalization here on Friday, and we'll revisit that. And Mike Huckabee is back in the game. Likes running for the presidency, no doubt about that. Your state of mind is important to us, and we'll check on that as well. All right, let us go to an in-depth conversation on all of these things. Yeah, I wrote this today because I was doing some deeper thinking about the differences in dynamics, you know, when it comes to what happened in Baltimore and all the protests there, and then Brian Moore loses his life, 25 years old, an officer in New York City, and, well, here's the latest on that. Here's the headline first that matched our disposition, and here's the latest on it.
A somber salute to a 25-year-old police officer killed in the line of duty. Brian Moore's family joined hundreds of officers for a solemn processional outside of Jamaica Hospital. An ambulance carried Moore's body. He died 2 days after an armed suspect shot him in the face.
Extraordinary young man. A great loss to his family, a great loss to this department, and a great loss to this profession.
When we square our shoulders and wipe our tears for Brian and his family, those same police officers are going to turn around and they're going to staff radio cars and foot posts, and they're going to ride on our subways, and they're going to work those stairwells in our complexes out there.
Yeah, and you know, my faith is that there will be as many African Americans. By the way, the shooter's African American, and so, you know, juxtaposed against Baltimore, it makes you kind of want to say some things, but you don't know what to say and what's constructive. My faith is that there are as many African Americans who are devastated by this as there are everyday Americans. And I know this, the protests won't happen, but the people will line the streets of New York City for the funeral. And perhaps we'll all feel like that's an appropriate public response to this devastating loss. Prayers are always important too. You know, you got to have your own, man. You got to have your own. Now, the governor was here last week, and I asked her about the Paw Sox deal in its present form, you know, with the ask of $120 million in state payments, in addition to free land, in addition to no taxation. That's its own subsidy. That's what they're looking for from the state government. And Governor Raimondo was like, no.
We need something, a share in the profits,
Right.
some
Gotcha.
upside, something for the money we're going to put forward.
Here's what I need to know. Short answer. Are we this close, or that close with the Paw Sox?
With the present deal, not
This close.
happening.
Not happening. So the Commerce RI group, you know, under the tutelage of the Commerce Secretary, Stephen Pryor has authorized at least $150,000, maybe $300,000 in consultant fees to study, one more time, the vision of the 195 land along the Providence River and the possibility of a stadium. So the separate deals, $150 for the vision, and if the vision includes a stadium, another $150 for the consultants on how to build the stadium. You follow that? Well, my thinking has been that there's a little bit of a difference between the Raimondo administration and the Speaker of the House, and the General Assembly might start to take their own road with this. And here's my confirmation beginning. The headline: House hires consultant on stadium. Nick Mattiello hires a gentleman from Smith College in Northampton, Mass., who is renowned for his knowledge on the sports economy. At $225 an hour, he now will be the go-to guy for the Speaker. Now, why is this tricky? Well, when the Speaker veers left and starts commandeering this negotiation with the Paw Sox and friction occurs between he and the governor, he'll be able to say, well, I had my own consultants. You follow that? Watch as this whole thing progresses. Without a consultant right now is the Senate President, Teresa Paiva-Weed. So if you'd like some work, she's probably looking. The process begins. The process begins. In Tiverton, they had their town meeting, and the folks at Twin River come in to talk about the casino. The headline reads, Clean slate. We want to start with all your ideas, Tiverton, about what kind of casino we want to build. Very creative, very smart.
We wanted to start a conversation with the voters. We didn't want to presuppose what they would accept, what they wouldn't accept.
Twin Rivers Chairman John Taylor Jr. is the one hoping to bring the casino here. He left the details about what it would look like vague, and he did that for a reason. He wants the public to design it.
If you open the floor to all of Tiverton to put their ideas into this proposal, how do you keep everybody happy at one time?
Yeah, I'm not sure that we're going to keep everyone happy.
Taylor's presentation lasted less than 10 minutes, leaving about a half hour of questioning from town council.
Is that your understanding?
Is there any additional property?
Have you contacted the DOT yet?
One question was on the possibility of expanding the casino to resemble Twin River. Taylor says the town will have full control.
Yeah, well, sort of at the beginning, but you know, once they get going, you know, that horse leaves the gate and you're chasing its tail. Look, I don't have any qualms with what Twin River is doing. If Newport's no good anymore, okay. They didn't approve the table games. You can't make a go of it there. This is more strategically placed for picking off Massachusetts competition. All right, the town of Tiverton wants it. You give them $3-4 million a year and they gobble it up and they need it and they spend it. Everybody's happy, right? But here's the thing. At the end of the day, we got to start thinking about Rhode Island surviving without gambling money. There will be an end to this someday. A bitter end, but an end nonetheless. There seems to be no end to the marijuana debate, and once again, legislation is in the State House regarding the legalization of marijuana. And here's the latest effort by the folks who would like to make it work. Highway billboard urge the Rhode Island lawmakers to consider marijuana as an economic boost. This is an economic initiative. Can you believe this? Here's the billboard itself. That Field of Dreams theme. If we build it, they will come. New business, good jobs, young professionals. It's time to establish a regulated marijuana market in Rhode Island. You know, they got some pretty good arguments. I still have a sick pit in my stomach about all of this, just like I did when I was facilitating the debate Friday nights.
We're building a new market. We're converting from an illicit industry and making it a regulated industry.
Bob Hodling pointed this out, the way it's structured. It's like releasing the Kraken on a kite string and thinking you'll be able to control its flight. That's how he feels about it right now. I couldn't agree more.
Jared Moffett of Regulate Rhode Island on your right there, and Mike Cerullo from What's the Rush on your left. We'll have them back for more debate. There'll be plenty of debate, but at least the people who are promoting this are taking a very business-like approach to it, rather than the same old arguments about, dude, it's your right to get high. It's just like alcohol, you know what I mean? Sorry. Huckabee. Really? Headline today, here he comes. He announced, here it was.
Republican Mike Huckabee chose his hometown, Hope, Arkansas, to officially announce he's entering the 2016 presidential race.
It seems perfectly fitting that it would be here that I announce that I am a candidate for President of the United States of America.
The former Arkansas governor and Baptist preacher won the 2008 Iowa caucuses with the support of social conservatives. Huckabee joins 5 other Republicans already in the race, including Dr. Ben Carson and former Hewlett-Packard CEO Carly Fiorina, who announced Monday.
You know, for some candidates, the big day is that day where you get to say, and for that reason, I am a candidate for the presidency of the United States of America. And Jess claps, maybe Steve. Anyway, Mr. Huckabee's going nowhere in this race. And I just wondered, does he know that? Anyway, your state of mind. Contact us, please. Let us know what you're thinking. 228-1886. Listen, I know Huckabee's got some fans, but come on, Mike. 401-228-1886. State of mind at myritv.com. Dan York Show, Facebook, and Twitter. So I guess I said something the other night about the Westerly lunch program. You know, this is when one of the kids had her lunch dumped, and I thought there was a better idea on how to execute the lunch line. I wasn't so worried about embarrassing the kids. You know, I'm not so worried about the little one being so humiliated. We're so worried about our kids being humiliated. A little humiliation goes a long way in terms of learning life's lessons. What they probably should do is put the register at the front of the line. So when a kid comes through, it's like, hey, guess what, Sally? You don't have your thing paid, so you're going to get the cold lunch. Oh, okay. As opposed to you walk through, you get your hot lunch, then oh, you didn't pay, and then they dump it. Listener, viewer, I'm sorry, this is Television Dan. Not happy with me on Facebook. This would be embarrassing for any child, and hopefully the issue isn't being handled this way. Your comment that the child is humiliated, oh well, is alarming, especially given the bullying that goes on today between children. I think there's a big difference between a mishap and a little bit of embarrassment and bullying. And if you don't know the difference, Diana, I don't know what to tell you. We take care of our kids so much, we nurse them so much, we don't want them to suffer any pain or discomfort. And at the end of the day, that's not going to help them. When we come back, challenges with fire coverage in Coventry and beyond. Stay with us. All right, so here is the headline amongst many headlines. Fire in Coventry has been one heck of a story these days. The new plan for troubled Central Coventry Fire District. The new plan is that from a receiver and the chairman of the Central Coventry Fire District Board of Directors, and too excited about it. Before I introduce Fred, let's roll a little bit of flavor from Eyewitness News.
To get the Central Coventry Fire District on the right track financially, they're making what's considered revolutionary changes.
It's been an intense negotiating period.
All that board or the receiver wants from these people is their checkbook.
It's obvious they had no input from the citizens.
How can we be saving all this money, but yet the burden on the taxpayer is going to increase?
All right, so there's just some flavor. The state representative, Patricia Morgan, was in the middle of that. The first person that you saw there was Mark Pfeiffer, who is the court-appointed receiver, and the third was Fred Gralinski, who is that chair. Welcome. Nice to have you. Thanks.
Thank you.
It's a mess, huh?
Yeah, it's what it is has been very one-sided. Even that meeting there, we only found out the last minute, as I told you. I happened to see a sign on the door, so we notified all our people, and I called your show, and we tried getting people out there because Receiver Pfeiffer had just put a little note on an obscure place, and he filed it on the state secretary's report on his website, Receiver. Nobody even knew that existed, so none of us were notified. He didn't use the Central Coventry Fire District website, so nobody knew the meeting. He was just going to try to pull a real sneaky and just get it through, so he complied with state law. He had his hearing, but the fact that nobody showed up wouldn't be his fault. So we did get some people there, and we did get people to disagree. And he did give us a little bit of information, but he still hasn't given a full explanation of everything's in there. As I'm reading through these court documents, I'm seeing a lot of things that are changed from what he said.
Well, give me the 36,000-foot view here for a second. The Central Coventry Fire District is one of 4
there's
districts.
4 districts.
It used to be 7.
Yeah.
It got consolidated to 4. You became a board member when that first upheaval occurred, correct?
Correct.
When they had an election and the old guard was voted out and the new guard was voted in.
Correct.
So you're part of the constituents that are fed up with the way the place has been run, correct?
Yes.
All right. But in the middle of all of that, the place was going under, and a Superior Court judge came in and took over what? The whole processes.
Well, what happened is Judge Stern could see that there was no way we were going to have an amicable solution. We raised the taxes. We were underwater. We raised taxes the max that we could. They did an assessment of 34%, which was pretty sizable on top of a tax increase, and it still wasn't enough that was going to save this district. So finally, Judge Stern realized he just had to order liquidation in order to get the state or somebody else to do something. He didn't have the power within the existing laws to do anything other than liquidate. He couldn't fix it or restructure it.
Right.
So
okay. So Mr. Pfeiffer is the liquidator.
No, he's not.
He's the second one, right?
Richard Land would have been the liquidator.
Okay.
He's the receiver, and his job is either try to save it or liquidate it.
Okay, right. And there's a difference between the two. The receiver is actually a manager in this particular case. Your board is duly elected by the people and has no specific responsible role in this, right? Yeah. So what do you guys just watch?
Yeah. Well, actually,
we're trying
to stay as involved, force ourselves into it within what we can. As I had explained to you once before, on the radio, the Fiscal Stability Act prohibits us from filing any motions that can stop whatever he does under penalty of being sued personally, and the receiver's office did send us an email.
We know that because of what happened in Central Falls.
But meanwhile, the union can file anything they want, so it's only the citizens who are outed. You know, a lot of people talk about, unions are there against the big guys. You know, the CEO makes $20 million and the worker gets $8. This is just the opposite. The elite is the union, and the slug is the taxpayer who has no rights at all, and the union holds all the cards and can do anything they want. So really, this is not your typical labor-worker relationship. This is elite union and slugs paying the bills. So we're in they're holding hostage what will happen. And I'd just like to read this one part. This is one of the court documents that Receiver Pfeiffer filed. Why they're trying to run through this quick agreement. They want to close the window to 14 days. They're paying all the major...
The agreement's a collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah, he wants to ram through this thing. And so here's one of the phrases I thought was really neat. Whereas the parties acknowledge and agree to enter this agreement in an effort to mitigate the possible monetary expense of arbitration and or court litigation, as well as attempting to maintain a harmonious relationship. Harmonious with who? The taxpayers own the place. Are they allowed any harmony?
And they're fit to be tied.
And they're fit to be tied. So what Judge Pfeiffer's saying is, I give up. The union's not going to really give us much. And so if we don't want to let the union continue to sue and fight, let's just give in. That's like taking your spoiled child, throwing a tantrum, and just buying them whatever they want. We've been doing that so long in Rhode Island to the firefighters union that we have now created a monster. These people are too powerful. They're just extremely too powerful. As Ken Block shows you the numbers of the bankrupt of the pensions in Rhode Island, forget, there's one other thing in there. That's not including health care costs. When these people go out on those dubious work-related, I'm not talking about the ones who are truly disabled work-related. That's 2%. The other 98%, when they go out, they get free college education for the family that the state pays for. They also get lifetime health insurance. That's another $250,000 to $500,000. If they go out at 30, average age is 79, so that's 40, 50 years of health insurance. That's $1 million per person.
All right, when we come back, I mean, there's no doubt that public finance of fire and a whole bunch of other things is way out of control. Where do we go from here? Stay with us. Fred Gralinski chairs the Central Coventry board, fire board, that seems to be completely... Are you 100% useless right now as a board?
Technically, yeah.
What do you approve? Anything?
No.
Nothing.
Nothing. What
do you think you're going to get the power back at some juncture?
Here's what's going to happen. Mark Pfeiffer is going to leave a plan that doesn't work. The receiver, Mark Pfeiffer, is going to leave a plan that doesn't work. And then he leaves us stuck with the responsibility and no authority. If you look at Central Falls...
Well, if you get the responsibility, you'll have some authority.
No, you won't. All your money's tied up.
Well, you will. You'll have the authority in the next contract to make changes.
No, you won't, because that's 5 years from now. And because the union has binding arbitration and interest arbitration, you'll never get anything back.
So what do you want to see done? If you could wave the magic wand, you have your own alternative plan, right?
Well, basically, because what's happened is the firefighters union has priced themselves out of a job. They don't know it individually. It's not in their base pay. It's all the different things they get, especially that disability pension deal. You look at here, part of what happened with us, our personnel from 2009 went from $3.8 million to $5.4 million in 2012. That's how they bankrupted this place. $1.5 million in overtime. We had 50-something firefighters then. That was more in the city of Cranston. That's how they were bleeding it.
How do you fix that?
Well, you have to get control back on staffing and manning. It's a management prerogative how many people you man, how many you staff.
Well, North Kingstown saved $2 million in changing platoons. Now there's a bill in the General Assembly that's circulating that I think is getting some support that would make that part of collective bargaining as well.
It's partially there, but it doesn't fix the whole problem of how much political power they have. It's those
No,
disability
I'm not
pensions.
saying that the bill is a good thing. I think the bill is a bad thing. The bill works against what North Kingstown has been able to accomplish and what you might want to accomplish. Yeah. At the end of the day, do you think this whole fire district thing works? Is there anybody in Coventry that'll just say, enough of this? We need one fire department in the town of Coventry and try to see if we can ram that legislation home like they're doing in Cumberland, like they're going to do in Lincoln?
Okay, with what Receiver Pfeiffer's putting together, no, because what he's leaving for a contract, when they merge districts, they all get the best of the best. So you'll never get any cost savings. It's very short term initially, and then it goes up. People think if you get rid of a chief or you get rid of a truck, it saves you money. Well, our chief was making $75,000 a year, and he's salaried. Once you go to all these departments, you end up with battalion chiefs who are hourly in the union, making a lot more than that, and they all get their SUV, and you don't save any money.
I got an email in advance here from a firefighter, I think, who wants to know why you hate firefighters, going back 20 years to your tax collector days in the Harris Fire District. That's the question being asked.
That's interesting. You asked me why I hate firefighters. I went down to Harris Fire District. I got involved, same thing, you couldn't get any answers on the money. I brought in training because they weren't really training people. I brought in budget for training. I didn't, I helped get people certified. I'm the one who got them in the state pension plan, the full-timers, because they weren't on it.
That's nonsense, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's nonsense. They think anybody who says no, they are so spoiled that if you ever say no, you can't have that.
Well, we're going to make our effort here on radio or on television or radio. Where am I? Television. To ask Mr. Pfeiffer to join us. He's not been very cooperative, which is not good for the people. But give me a 10-second sum on what this whole thing is all about.
Well,
really,
the whole thing is about money, and that's the worst topic you can ever talk about. I mean, you can talk about anything in life, but people are all nervous about money. I'm not going to tell you how much I have. You're not going to tell me how much you have. But this boils down to money. We didn't run out of trucks. We didn't run out of people. We ran out of money.
I get it.
And the only way we can get away from this is to have fewer firefighters. And our recommendation, our primo would be.
Gotta go. Go. Primo what?
Would be private rescue, full-time firefighter.
We'll be right back. We ran late. More fire analysis tomorrow night. Good night.